Sorry?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just have one other person here.
Meeting. On behalf of the panel, I recognise the traditional custodians of the land, the Ku-ring-gai people, on whose land we are virtually meeting. The panel has no apologies to make, and there are no apologies from any other persons recorded. The panel comprises 4 people. I am the chair. There are 2 expert panel members, and there's a community panel member, and I'll ask each of the panel members to introduce themselves in a short way so that you understand who you're dealing with. I am the chair. My name is Angus Talbot. My connection with this type of activity is that I was a judge at the Land Environment Court for 15 years.
The recording has stopped.
Thank you so much. I'll just continue. I practiced in that area of the law, obviously, prior to going on the bench and subsequently. And I've been a member of other panels besides this Ku-ring-gai panel. The next panel member I'll ask to introduce themselves is Greg Flynn. You there, Greg?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name's Gregory Flynn. I'm a town planner, worked in the 35 years experience in local, state and private practice. Worked at a number of councils across Sydney, and I've been a member since 2009 on the Joint Regional Hunter Joint Regional Planning Panel, and I'm on a number of other local panels. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Sandra Robinson to shortly introduce herself? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Sandra Robinson. I'm a consultant town planner, director of my own practice. I work on development matters throughout Sydney, Land and Environment Court matters, and I'm on Ku-ring-gai and 3 other local planning panels.
Thank you. And of course, our community panel member is Suzanne Jolly. Suzanne, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Suzanne Jolly. I reside in excuse me, the suburb of Wahroonga, and I've been in the area for over 10 years, currently living in Wahroonga for about the past 8 years. I guess by background, I'm an environmental planner as well, so have a special interest in those aspects.
Thank you. Each of the panel members has signed a declaration of interest, and no declaration of interest has been made. I'll just check whether there's anything occurred since the signing of the declaration. Has any panel member got a declaration of interest to make?
No.
No.
Thank you. Greg?
No.
And no staff declarations of interest have come forward. The speakers to the one matter that is listed in this public meeting will be called in order of the agenda list that's been circulated. Each speaker has 3 minutes to speak. There will be a chance for questions at the end of the meeting from the panel members. There will be a signal at the end of the 3 minutes, and I ask you to please honour the rule that we keep the answers to 3 minutes. The objector will be heard first, then there will be a speaker on behalf of the applicant. So that moving to the first matter that's on, or the only matter that's on the agenda for today in terms of the public meeting, is the development application in respect of the property 1 A Chiltern Parade, Warrawee. Each of the panel members have visited the site and they've read the reports, and they have otherwise made themselves conversant with the issues that are involved in this application. And there's one person registered to speak at the meeting, and I now invite Mr. David Furs Roberts to address the meeting for 3 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Furs Roberts, if you're ready.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chair, for inviting me to lodge my objection to the development of 1A Children Parade, Warrawee. So I'm opposed to this development on 4 chief grounds. The first being that the proposed DA is incongruous with the existing streetscape and pattern of residential dwellings on Chiltern Parade and the surrounding neighbourhoods. See, all of the existing properties are long-established standalone houses, and an apartment-style complex of 6 residences would be out of place with the aesthetic character of a vicinity. Secondly, the construction of this relatively high development would impinge on the amenity and privacy of adjoining properties in both Chiltern Parade and Wiltshire Place. The new building would block out much of the sunlight presently enjoyed by residents of those surrounding dwellings, overshadowing their backyards for much of a day. And with neighbours having their properties overlooked by the upper story of this complex, their privacy, personal space, and enjoyment of their own land would be compromised. Third, this development will be built in a zone that is prone to flooding, with the close proximity of 1A Chiltern Parade to Lovers Jump Creek. The planned underground car park would be built in a low-lying, vulnerable area, which would only exacerbate the flooding potential, putting neighbouring properties in Chiltern Parade and Wiltshire Place at risk. And with the Ku-ring-gai Council's 2021 flood plan land policy requiring flooding and overflow to be considered for potential developments, this DA falls short of this requirement. Finally, the construction of this seniors living development would greatly increase the volume of traffic along both Chiltern Parade and the surrounding streets, including Eastern Road, Wiltshire Place, Davidson Avenue, Halcyon Avenue, and Raymond Avenue. Although the development provides on-site parking amenities, the additional vehicles from both residents and visitors would be highly problematic. At present, these streets are a popular parking zone for both the staff of and visitors to the local Eastern Road businesses, and the addition of more parked cars would create further congestion along these streets. And also, the increased traffic flow along Chiltern Parade would add congestion to what is already a relatively narrow corridor, being hazardous for pedestrians, children, and other users of the neighbourhood. And so on these grounds, I oppose the development. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your assistance, Mr. Furs Roberts. I'll just for one moment ask you to stay there. Ms. Robinson, do you have any questions for Mr. Furs Roberts?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Flynn, do you have any questions for Mr. Furs Roberts?
Mr. Chair.
And Ms. Jolly, do you have any questions for Mr. Furs Roberts? You're on mute.
Thank you. No, I don't. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Furs Roberts, I just have one question, and that is into the nature of your representation. I noted that you spoke very generally about the impact and also specifically about the potential impact of this development. Were you speaking on behalf of other people, or just in your own interest?
I'm speaking on behalf of myself and also the local residents who share similar concerns and who have expressed those concerns to me in both writing and orally as well.
Thank you, Mr. Furs Roberts. I rather detected that underlying aspect of your address. Your comments will certainly be taken into account when the panel retires into private session to make the final determination, and thank you for your assistance. Can I now move on to the next person registered to speak, and that's Mr. Stuart Gilder. Are you there, Mr. Gilder? I see his phone's there. Is Mr. Gilder connected to the meeting?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And I'm asking you whether you've got anything to address the meeting. You've got 3 minutes to do so if you are so inclined, Mr. Gilder.
Look, I have nothing further to add. I understood what Mr. Furs-Roberts was saying, and I think we've taken into account each one of those items, particular the flooding, the sunlight, the overlooking, they've all been dealt with as we've gone through the processes. We've worked through with council. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
And Mr. Gilder, what is your role, just so that it can be recorded?
Architect.
Thank you. I'll just see if there's any questions for you. Ms. Robinson, do you have any questions for Mr. Gilder?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Flynn, do you have any questions for Mr. Gilder?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Ms. Jolly, anything you want to raise with Mr. Gilder? Thank you very much. Thank you for your attendance, Mr. Gilder. It seems that the reports and the material that's been submitted is sufficient to enable the panel members to proceed to a decision. Now, the panel will now adjourn for the purposes of making its decision, and the ultimate decision will be published on the council's website, hopefully within the next 24 hours. So thank you for your assistance, Mr. Furs-Roberts and Mr. Gilder. The meeting is now closed and the panel will adjourn into private session.